do you think this is all a bunch of BS? Either way, do you think it's important to understand how the body truly works? At this point, do you understand there is nothing more important than your health? Big, important question. Okay, who am I? My name is Adam Bigelsen. I am the son of Dr. Harvey Bigelsen. This is the reason we are doing these shows. My father, if you do not know who he was, feel free to look him up. There's some interesting information out there on him. The man was a true American hero, and he did some amazing things in his life. He legitimized homeopathy in the United States. He set up the American Homeopathic Medical Association. He wrote the American Homeopathic Medical Practice Act, which was a law in Arizona, which was the first state that separated the HMA, Homeopathic Medical Association, from the AMA. My father became very famous in the 90s for his work with cancer. At this point, the idea is sharing his theories and philosophies. The results he got were with a lot of cases that people could not do anything with at all. So my father got results with cases that no one could help. So I want to explain to you the theory and the philosophy that he used to get the results he got. Okay, and I'm going to say something now that I think is important to listen to and hear. We're not here to argue. We're here to present information from our experience. Okay, so this is not what we think. This is what we know after having had my father do this work for over 40 years. Okay, he did not follow the germ theory of disease. Western medicine is based on the germ theory of disease, Pasteur. His rival was Antoine Béchamp, and he had the terrain theory of disease. Following the terrain theory of disease is how my father got the results that he got. Okay, so we are here to explain the terrain theory of disease. I like to think the world right now is ready for a little bit of a shift. Something is not working, and at this point, a lot of us are feeling powerless. So if you understand this philosophy, you become educated and empowered so you can learn to take charge of your own healthcare. Are you excited? Are you ready? Good. So am I. So today, one thing I do want to say real quick, there's something out there called live cell analysis. What we do, the holographic blood work, is not to be confused with live blood analysis. Similar images, very different philosophy and very different interpretation of the images. So let me get rid of that off the screen. Guest today, I'll have my brother on in a few minutes. And the idea with this show today also is we were planning on doing a lecture in Venice Beach area in Los Angeles. And of course, we're all stuck at home now. So this is what that lecture was intended to be. The terrain theory and showing you different evidence, proof cases that we've had that demonstrate the terrain theory of disease. Okay, so Josh will be on in a few minutes. Aside from that, I take a look. Oh, I see some comments today. Yay, Kathy. Kathy Homeyer, good to see you. Natalie, hello, good to see you. If people have questions, comments, this is on a few different pages right now. Please go to the Bigelsen Academy Facebook page if you want to ask a question or share comments. Okay. So with that being said, also let me move on here. I'm gonna do a screen share, and let's see if this works. And I'm gonna show screen share and move over and do the beginning part of our lecture. So at this point, Josh, if you can hear me, do you see me and the presentation at the same time? Yes? Excellent. Okay, let's talk about Lamarck. Lamarck talks about the theory of evolution. And what we get from him is that a parasite attaches to a host, and the host adapts. What this is a symbiotic relationship, okay? A symbiotic relationship. This is how nature works. Nature is very symbiotic, excuse me. So we also discuss Albert Einstein. With Albert Einstein, we talk about his theory of relativity, and what we get from Albert Einstein is the idea that particles cannot be separated from the space within which they are in. So you are a product of your environment as much as your environment is a product of you. Part of what's going on with your health may be because of your environment, your relationships, your work environment, whatever's going on there. I'm going to breeze through some of this quick. Pasteur gave us the germ theory of disease. This is what Western medicine is based on. And people go read up on Pasteur. We don't want to make judgments, but he was wrong. And people have not been able to replicate his work, okay? Josh, I appreciate the piping in. We can hear you, so feel free to pipe in auditorily. And we're reading some interesting stuff. So go find out about that. We don't want to sit here and talk about that, but we want to talk about the fact that, his theory about germs invading us, germs we need to build up our defenses and guard against germs. This is very combative. This is not symbiotic. His rival was Antoine Béchamp. Now, woo! As I look up Béchamp, there's not as much out there on him as there should be. This is one of those things where things have been erased from the history books. So this is another reason we're doing this show. We need some of this information to be out there. And also, as we share what we've done and found from our experience, we do not know everything. We know that this needs to be studied more and more. Okay, and this is also something that you, the average person, can start to incorporate in your life. Okay, this is so simple, it is ridiculous. All right, you'll become an expert very quickly. So Béchamp talks about a few things. Symbionts are these little microscopic guys we see in the blood. If you've seen our videos before, you've seen us show pictures of these. We can show you a video of that later. We're not here to repeat ourselves, but we want to get to some evidence. As these little guys in the blood, though, they have been found in all things, plant, animal, and mineral. They do not die. They help us to create who we are, and they help us to decompose. When we look at the blood, we see this as one of the most important things in the universe. This is your chi, your prana. This is the force, okay? One of the things we see in the blood. And these symbionts, there are many different names for them, microzymas, bions, endobionts. Western medicine, there are no names for this, okay? Once again, this is what my dad did for years, so this is not a new experience here for us. These little guys, we talk about the theory of pleomorphism. Josh, it was Béchamp and Enderlein with pleomorphism, correct? Okay. Symbionts, you can see them at the top there. And the deal is with pleomorphism, the terrain will change, the symbionts will change based on the terrain, the environment, okay? So the symbionts are at the top, things like pH get out of balance, then these things start to morph into bacteria and eventually into fungus. And this is doing this in a way to help us. All right, Josh, I guess you can talk a little bit more about that in a moment or so. But once again, this is what we have done as far as theory, using the blood and working with people in our clinics for years and years and years. So if the terrain is out of balance, these little guys can morph. The beauty about pleomorphism is it can be reversed. This is what we did in our clinic. We looked at the blood, we saw blocks in the environment, we removed those blocks and the terrain went back to normal and things magically just went back to where they should be and symptoms went away. Okay, we did another show on this. This is actually part 2. So if you have more questions, you can type up your questions or you can go back to the other show and you can watch that if you want. The body must flow like a beautiful and winding river. This is a picture I took when we were living in Seattle. A nice river. It's flowing. It's aerated. Everything is wonderful. If you look on the side of the river, you see a stick. And there's a twig in the river. Behind that twig is where debris accumulates. Okay? This is the same idea in the body. Now, this is where I'm going to get into... oh, Josh, that's funny. People can't hear Josh. Okay, I'll fix that in just a second. We're going to get into Josh right here in just a moment. They better be able to hear Josh. He's my show. Anyways, as we do this, we look at the blood, we see a block, we remove the block, and then things start to flow to where they need to be. So we would not do detoxes or cleanses in our clinics in order to remove debris from the body. The body will do this on its own as long as it's supported. Okay, I'm going to stop my sharing here and get back to this. I'm going to bring Josh up into the stream. And let's see, Josh is coming on. He's there. Josh, say hello to the audience.
Hola, bon dia.
Hola, okay, there. Can you hear Josh? For people that are typing. And anyone, can you hear Josh? No? Yeah? No? Maybe?
We'll find out.
Okay. We're going to keep going on this whole thing as if you can hear Josh. And so, Josh, the question is at this point, talking about terrain theory, talk about detoxes and cleanses, and then we'll get more in depth. Okay.
Perfect. And it says that they can hear me. Hi, Suzanne. Good to hear from you. Hope you're doing well.
Yay, Michelle, Anna, excellent. Thank you. I'm going to give Josh the screen for a moment.
So the question again was, I guess, about detoxes and cleanses. As Adam showed with the river, if we have a block in the river, then that's where the debris accumulates. And that's the same thing that goes on in our bodies. So as there's a block in the body, whether it's a physical, emotional scar disturbance, then what that does is the debris gets stuck there. So you'll go to your let's say you go to your naturopath, and they're going to say, oh, okay, well, you've got candida or you've got heavy metal toxicity. So they're going to give you an herb or a remedy for that, when what they really need to do is remove that branch from the river and then let the body clean itself. So we're not concerned with forcing the body to detox. You create a healthy body, you remove the blocks, and you let the body take care of itself. It's a very, very simple philosophy. You just support the body and let it do its job. So things like chelation and things that are supposed to take heavy metals out of the body, if you don't remove the blocks, you're never going to be able to release those totally from your body, and you're on an instant chelation, endless detox, that sort of a thing. So very simplistic. Remove the blocks from the body and let the body take care of itself. So cool. I'll go back real quick to the germ theory, because there's so much. The world is so divided right now, whether it's political, whether it's with the vaccines, whether it's with this virus. We have our views on the virus. I'm not afraid of it. You know, knowing what we know about germs and germs not causing disease, I have absolutely no fear of the virus, but it's becoming increasingly more evident that there's a lot of fear out there. So our job today is just to educate you on how the body works. And whether you believe the virus is a problem or whether you don't believe in it at all, these are steps we can take to take care of ourselves so we're impervious to the external influences. Béchamp's testing was corroborated and done over and over and over again by different scientists. So he really proved it many different ways, and then other scientists backed it up and proved it as well. Unfortunately, Darwin, he even admitted to plagiarizing at the end, and nobody's really been able to replicate what he did with the germ theory. So the basis for germ theory was a lie, but unfortunately that's what controls things right now. But once again, whether you believe that germs cause disease or not, today it's all about trying to figure out how to attain a healthy body.
All right, and I'm coming back on here. Cool. So Josh, thank you for that. I'm gonna set you aside for just a moment, and we'll bring you back on in a second, okay? All right, now, as we get back to the big picture idea, the terrain. What is your terrain? When we look at the body, we look at Rudolf Steiner's four-body experience. And let's see if I can share the screen a little bit, or one more time here for you guys. Okay, share my screen and show in stream. Okay, here we go. So right here, Rudolf Steiner, his four-body experience. He talks about the physical body, the energetic body, the emotional body, and the spiritual body. And what we've come to realize is this is your terrain experience. If there's an imbalance in any one of those, it affects all of the other ones. All right. Now, so structurally, if you're out of balance, it'll create lower energy, and then emotionally you get depressed. Spiritually, maybe you question a higher power. If your energy is low, then physically it starts to affect you. Emotionally, you get depressed. You question a higher power. Spiritually, emotionally, you break up with somebody. Physically, you get weak energy. Physically, it starts to affect you. And then once again, you question a higher power. So Rudolf Steiner's four-body theory is what we looked at as far as blocks in the body. It can be a physical block, energetic block, or an emotional block. Spiritual is a different experience, but spiritual has to do with beliefs. Okay, so if you believe you can get better, that's one thing. If you do not believe you can get better, that's a whole other story. All right. The other thing is structure is our first one. Structure is the supportive framework for your energetic flow. And Andrew Taylor still talks about the idea that disease cannot exist where there are no obstructions. The amount of people that come to us with heart problems, we look at the blood, there's no heart issue that we see in the blood. We see the structure is out of alignment, putting pressure on the heart. We've seen that with kidney issues, with all kinds of issues, actually. So structure is a big, big deal for us, and this is where we want to start with you today. All right, let's get back here. Let's hide that one. And what we want to do, too, is I'm bringing Josh back into the picture. We want to educate you as to what you can do about things, okay, how the terrain of your body works. So as structure is the first one, First of all, you align your car once a year. When was the last time you aligned your body? Okay, nobody aligns their body. Go to the osteopath. Go get a cranial sacral treatment. Try it, and if you've never done it, you're going to see some change that's really interesting. The other thing, though, is as we talk about things structurally, what people need to realize is most of us were set off center from the very beginning. Okay, so Josh, tell them all about this book that you read and let them know how they've been set off center from the beginning.
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid, people, because there's always hope.
First two, I see Lorraine saying I mentioned Darwin instead of Pasteur, and you are correct, Lorraine, so thank you. I can piggyback on that a little bit too, because we follow Darwin and his theory of evolution, which is survival of the fittest, which is I'm stronger than you, so I win. So we talk about Lamarck, it's more a symbiotic relationship. So Darwin is wars on drugs, wars on cancer, wars on terrorism, and that's not the way humans evolve. We evolve through symbiosis. So thank you, Lorraine. Yeah, they couldn't recreate Pasteur's experiments, and unfortunately, we're following Darwin's theory of evolution as well. And where's that getting us at this point in time? So, a wonderful book came out, I believe, in the 70s called Birth Without Violence, and it was by an osteopath named Le Boyer, Frederick Le Boyer. I believe he was French, and he talks about how most of us are born and just the process of it, and really simple things that we've always known with our upbringing how big of a deal the birth is. But he really put some things into perspective. So first of all, when we're born, one of the first things they do is they take the baby out and they shine a light in its eyes. And I realize this baby has been in darkness for 9 months, total darkness for 9 months. So one of the first things they do is they take it out and they shine light in the eyes. This is actually the same way they used to train bulls to bullfight, is they would keep them in darkness for long periods of time until they released them into the arena, into this bright light, and they became incredibly disoriented. So one of our first things is we're really, really disoriented at that point in time. Internally, intrauterine, we're being caressed by a nice fluid. We're really encased in this softness, basically. So they take you out. Now they've got a towel wrapped around you, which is going to feel really abrasive, whether it's a soft towel or not. The rubber gloves, really abrasive. So it's almost like your skin is raw and they're kind of rubbing you down with this abrasive towel. So there's that as well. Sometimes they take you to weigh you immediately and they put you on this steel table, right? So at this point, also, when we're intrauterine, everything we hear is muffled. So everything is really loud to the baby. So you've got doctors, talking loud. You've got the lights on really bright in the room. You've got doctors shining lights into the baby's eyes. And the baby is so disoriented that he's basically being born into fear. So our first view of this world for a lot of us, if we're born traditionally, is to be born into fear. So as they cut the umbilical cord, we talk about this sometimes, I'll probably get into it later. When we have a scar on the body, the scar holds in the actual emotional trauma of the event. And our belly button is a scar. So what the belly button does is it actually holds in the emotion of our actual birth trauma. So if you've had a good birth and you've had a wonderful midwife take care of you, it's a really nice, gentle thing, and they cut the belly button correctly, then your first, activities in life are really pleasant. But for most of us, I was a forceps delivery, and I'm pretty convinced I was comfortable in there, and they just yanked me out. And that's kind of the way I wake up in the morning. It's like, what's going on? So my first, entrance into this life was fear, and my head was being crushed. So all of that gets locked into our belly button scar, which really controls a lot of who we are and controls our breathing, and it controls our path in life. If you look at most meditations, most martial arts, they actually lead from the belly button or dantian. So immediately our center is off, we're ungrounded, and we're born into fear. And I had a little experience at the grocery store yesterday, and we were behind this lady who was probably about my age, so not very old, and mask on, and I could see the poor lady was petrified. She was petrified of her surroundings. And my first thought was, with my upbringing, well, she doesn't get it. And then immediately I just became sad that this lady was in such fear. And knowing that this is what's going on with most of the world right now is people are petrified and they're living in fear. And a lot of it's just based on misinformation. So a lot of us are born into this. So it's like when we go back to sucking our thumb or we go back to the fetal position because that's our comfort level. This is what people are going back into. This is their comfort level, is to go back into the fear. So fear is basically fight or flight, and that's sympathetic mode. Sympathetic mode, is fight or flight, like I said. And what we do is it slows down our respiration, it slows down our circulation, and we live in a state of fear and panic, and the body doesn't heal that way. the body heals in parasympathetic mode, which is rest and recuperate. So for a lot of us, and it's very evident right now with this epidemic of fear, people were born into fear and they're going right back to what they were used to. So things right now that could be really important, meditations, martial arts, qigongs, tai chi, anything that incorporates breathing is massively, massively important, because as we live in sympathetic, we realize how much it's affecting our breathing. So if you've had a birth trauma, most of us have. There's a lot of things you can do about it, and we talk about it a lot in some of our other lectures. But just concentrate on breathing, concentrate on relaxing, get some movement.
Right. And it's interesting. Sorry, I keep looking at the side. My camera looks crappy. Yours looks great. Though oxygen is important. And a thing I read the other day again that we need to remind people, disease cannot live in oxygen. Okay. So we get afraid and all of a sudden you're tensing up and you're inhibiting circulation and respiration and all that stuff. So the reality is breathe. Relax and breathe. And that's good for your health. Josh said with the belly button experience, and I'll set you off to the side for just a moment, Josh.
Well, and I'll clarify.
Oops.
And she got my father's brain, so she's really the brilliant one of the family. So I said that when we go into sympathetic, it actually slows our respiration down. But basically, she corrected me, which is great. What happens in sympathetic mode is it speeds up our respiration, which wears us out, which makes a lot of sense. So thank you, Lila. You should be on the show sometime. You're brilliant.
Yay, Lila. Woo!
Wish I had Dad's brain.
So meanwhile, as I was going back to breathing, yes, if we're afraid, and a lot of people are afraid, and that's fine. It's a human emotion, and it's natural to be afraid. There's confusion and all that kind of stuff at this point. But breathe. Take your time and breathe. What else was I going to say at this point? As Josh said, we're kind of set off center from the beginning. That doesn't mean there's no hope. Okay, look at Josh. He's doing great. Forceps, and I saw Natalie was forceps. She said there was a whole part of the world that was forceps delivery, and besides the fact that how many people did C-section births and didn't go through the birth canal, which sets our structure, from the beginning as well. Now with the blood, okay, this is something we're going to keep coming back to, because we can see birth trauma experiences in the blood. All right, and this is your terrain. So your terrain was altered from the beginning. All right. So, Josh, can you tell us, give us an example or two of people that you've worked with and stories. What's gone on in our clinic, terrain theory, birth trauma wise? What have you seen? And not necessarily the details of what was done, but what was changed. I'm going to give you the screen and see if I can fix my camera.
Yeah, there's a couple different stories there. A client with an autoimmune disease came in. Heavily medicated, really, really sad. All she did was cry. Head was down like this, and she would basically sit with her hands in her face, and she would cry nonstop. My sister actually worked with her, and from an acupuncture point of view, she said she's damp. So basically, what happened is she was born prematurely. She was born after 7.5 months, I believe, and she actually wasn't done developing. So what we had actually done with some of the therapies is started to strengthen her, and we actually brought her through the birthing process. Really at the age of 18. So solidified the structure with a combination of things, including, of course, osteopathy. So we finished the actual birthing phase so she could actually start to be a human being again. But she was born early, and she just wasn't ready for this world. The body wasn't ready for this world. The other one we've had was a young boy with autism. And what had happened is the father was a very famous person who became really famous overnight. And he had married his high school sweetheart. And during the 7th or 8th month, I believe 7th or 8th month of pregnancy, he becomes an overnight sensation, and he's coming home at 3, 4 in the morning after hanging out with who knows who, whatever the popular girl on the market was, he was hanging out with her. And his wife would stand by the door waiting for him with her arms crossed. Right? So now when the baby's born, every time the father would come into the room, the baby would scream his head off. So what was going on externally intrauterine affected what was going on with the baby intrauterine there. So, and there was a lot that we did for that one as well, and a lot of it came with osteopathy. The emotions are physically locked into our body, so we have to open up physically to release the root of the emotion. So a fair portion of what we see in the blood comes back to our birth history and our birth trauma.
Okay. So as I join back into the picture, so for people listening, most of us, when you were born, if there was a midwife involved, chances are things are better off. Okay, you actually you started off on a better foot than most of us did. If things were set off center from the beginning, the body is the perfect machine. It can adapt wonderfully. We see things in the blood. We assist the body. We support it. This is what the terrain theory is about. It's about supporting the terrain, not cutting things out and stuff like that. Okay? As I think about the terrain in general too, just think about your fish tank, the terrain of your fish tank. If the pH is out of balance in the water, your fish don't live. Right? The terrain of your garden, if things are out of balance and you get too many parasites and things get weird. So it's a really simple concept, this idea of the terrain. Now, structurally also, aside from the birthing experience, if we go to the other end of the spectrum, as people get older, all right, now the body itself, structurally, if you look at like a car, like I said, you can put all the good gas in your car you want, all the oil changes, but if you don't align the car, it's going to keep driving off center. And we used to show a video of a car, an alignment video. So if the front right tire is out of alignment, it affects the back left tire. So if your right knee is something off, then it might affect your left shoulder. All right. Now we get hit all the time. We fall on our butt, and you got a headache because there's the cranial sacral pump. You hit your head, and then something goes on in your chest all of a sudden. So there's a lot of different things that can happen that way. The other thing, though, I wanted to say is we started with birth, so people can start off center, and there's things that can be done. And osteopaths are great with kids, by the way. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. On the other end of the spectrum, as people get older, structurally related issues, things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Josh, you want to jump on that one for a minute there?
Sure. Well, Dad always talked about where some people are born off center and they keep going off center. So that would be our birth trauma. Some people are born on center and then they take a big left turn or a right turn in life. So there's a traumatic event that goes on. So we've seen, let's see, Parkinson's, things like Muhammad Ali. He basically had his cranial mechanism smashed in. So the cranium is made of 22 interlocking bones, and the brain has to expand and contract. So as the brain expands and contracts, the skull has to follow it, basically. And as the brain expands and contracts, it's pumping cerebral spinal fluid through around the brain and through the entire nervous system. So it's nourishment for the brain. So what happened with Ali is his cranial mechanism was so jammed, his head could not move anymore. So the brain couldn't expand, so it couldn't spread the cerebral spinal fluid evenly. So what happened is parts of the brain just started to dry up. We've seen with other instances of Parkinson's where they really get the bad head shake going on. As you actually work them through it, the shake gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it stops. So it's like the body is uncoiling. So you have to actually physically uncoil that injury from them. So yeah, lots of Parkinson's, lots of Alzheimer's is check out that cranial mechanism, get them to an osteopath, see what type of trauma there was. We can certainly figure it out in the blood as well. You get the cranial mechanism opened up, the brain starts to get the nourishment it needs, and then a lot of things start to regenerate from there. So yeah, some of us start off life off center and keep going that way, and some people get punched in the face by George Foreman. So we all take different paths.
Right. And let me see if I can do the shared screen, because this, I think, was a picture. Dun, 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 dun. Can you see that picture there, Josh?
No, unfortunately not.
Nope. Oh, hey, let's try this. Shared screen, and I have to do, sorry, I'm still working on all this stuff. Solo on, solo off. Oh, well, it didn't come up. I'll see if I can pull that one up in a few minutes.
I know probably the picture that we had a person send us blood in the mail because people can do distance consultations with us, and we can do readings for them. And this was a person with Parkinson's. He sent in for his grandfather, and you could see a picture of the spinal cord black, which means the cerebral spinal fluid wasn't moving at all, and the brain was necrotic. So basically, we saw end-stage Parkinson's, and their brain was totally dried up. At that point, unfortunately, there was really nothing that anybody could do for him. That's also the reason we don't box. That's a different picture right there. That's actually the trauma to the base of the skull that's still locked into the body right there. So you can see at some point there was some sort of injury to the base of the skull there, and it's still affecting the nervous system. So that's something that can certainly lead towards a Parkinson's, a vertigo, an Alzheimer's, that sort of a thing.
Okay. All right, cool. So let me stop the sharing and hide that one. Hide it, make it go away. Oh no, hide it, make it go away. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm gonna let Josh hide for just a minute. And at this point, so structure is an important thing. There he goes, he's hiding. Structure is so relevant to so many different conditions that we've found. It's pretty amazing. It's really, it's an overlooked thing. Density learned nothing about structure in medical school. Okay, so structure is the first thing. Along the car, if you've never been to an osteopath, a cranial sacral person, or for cranial sacral therapist, go try it and see what happens. Now let's get into energy. Energy is the second one. Josh, I'll mute you so you can cough if you guys are hearing him cough. Anyways, energy. Okay, now energy must flow through the body. We're talking circulation, respiration. You think about acupuncture. Acupuncture has been around for thousands of years. There's thousands of papers on acupuncture, and it works with the electrical system of the body. There's a device, I have a camera. Kathy Holmeyer has one. There's a few other people. Anna Oliva is using one, has used one for years. It's called the BioWell device. What this camera does is it takes images of the photon discharge off your fingertips. Science. Ooh, science! Photon discharge off your fingertips and correlates it with the acupuncture meridians that run through the fingertips. Okay? And then it comes up with images like this. Now, as you look at this image, this is someone I had scanned. This was during a stressful time, actually. But if nothing else, you can see breaks in the energy. And by the way, this device is out of Russia. It's being used on Olympic athletes. They're doing studies with essential oils. They're doing all kinds of interesting studies with it. So it's been accepted scientifically. It's a very easy device to use, which is nice. I have one. I like it. It's simple. It's very good for teaching. So you can see here, breaks in the energy experience, all right? At the same time, you can see this one. I'm gonna hide myself on this one so you don't need to see. Okay, I'm back. Someone said they can hear me, so I'm back. If you think about life and energy in general, what gives you energy? What brings you joy? You know that feeling after you've been dancing or you're just having a good time with friends or something like that. And you feel this little buzz, basically. All right. So these two images, basically, who do you think is going to be more susceptible to anything in general as far as illness is concerned? Okay, this is where your energy is important. And the simple idea of just doing that, go dance for a little bit. Oh, breathe, meditate, read a book, talk to a friend, do things that give you joy, and your energy changes. And this is good for your health. Okay, these images, a device measures photon discharge off the fingertips, right? I can before and after Qigong. I've done that. 10 minutes of Qigong and watching things change totally energetically. All right. Let's get rid of these two for a second. And let's get me back on the screen. I'm going to bring Josh back on in a second. Energy. As we look at the blood, what do we see as far as energy is concerned? Energy has actually a lot to do with structure and emotions as well. One other thing we see that has to do with energy quite a bit in the blood are teeth. Many acupuncture meridians run through the teeth, and we see teeth in the blood. If you have a big chunk of metal on a tooth, it affects the energy to an organ. And that is something we've addressed therapeutically and we have seen results with. Okay, so teeth are a big deal. We all have dental issues. There are also issues you're not sure about, you don't know about. This is why we're working with a clinic in Mexico that has a dental clinic there also. So Josh, talk a little bit about, some stories. What have we seen with teeth? Oh, wait, he's muted.
Oh,
okay, there you go. Sorry. Start again.
Yeah, many things. First, I want to piggyback on the biofield picture you showed, because it's really, really important, and that's something that people need to understand, or hopefully understand, is we have an internal energy and we have an external energy, okay? And if those things are in alignment, and if those things are in health, we cannot be invaded by what's out there. The external forces cannot affect us. Our friends who are farmers, who do it correctly, regeneratively. They're surrounded by glyphosates and Roundup, but their soil stays strong because their terrain is too strong for it to be affected. So as we create a healthy body, it strengthens us internally. It strengthens our biofield. So people could sneeze on you all day long then, and you're not going to get sick. The studies have even shown that during the biggest epidemics, even the plague, it was rare that more than one person in the household got sick. So if it's infectious, then how come everybody's not getting sick? Because some people's terrain was compromised at that point. So powerful picture there with the BioWell, Adam. Thank you. Teeth. Too many stories to tell with teeth. Several times people would come in. So on more than one occasion, I've had somebody come in with a thyroid cancer. And I just have them open up their mouth, and I'll see a big hunk of mercury or a big hunk of metal or a root canal on the actual thyroid meridian. At that point, I don't even look at their blood. I tell them to go and get this checked out a little bit. Lots of times they remove that block, the poison from that actual tooth. The meridian to the energy to the thyroid then strengthens, and the thyroid comes back. So sometimes it's really, really that simple. If there's a block on the tooth, that's going to affect the energy to the actual organ. So a lot of times it can be diagnosed that way. Not that we can use the word diagnosis, but if there's a problem on the tooth, know that it will affect the actual energy to the organ. So you take care of the tooth, and then the body can start to heal itself. So when people would come to see us, a lot of times Dad would say, take care of your teeth first, because you're just wasting your money coming to see me. Because if it's coming from the teeth, you've got to clean up the mouth first. People are wasting time. They're getting tested for heavy metals. Well, if you test for heavy metals, maybe you should get the metal out of your mouth. All right? Endless people on chelation, and they still have metal in their mouth. So there's a couple different trains of thought of looking at it, but the cleaner your mouth is, the cleaner your terrain will be. It's a very, very simple. Probably with all the blood I've looked at over the years, the majority of what I see these days is teeth and birth traumas. So take care of your teeth.
Okay, I'm coming back into the picture there. Hopefully you guys can see me and hear me as well. So
the other part of that, actually, I guess that would be more structurally. Whereas if a tooth is missing, we don't fill it in, the mouth collapses and the head starts to tilt and it pulls your body out of alignment. I can go deeper into that, but we'll talk about that a little more some other time. But if the mouth is out of alignment, it will affect the structure of your whole entire body as well. But energetically, if there's a block on the tooth, it affects the energy to the organ.
Right, and all of this, once again, there's a block on the tooth, affects the energy to the organ. This is altering your terrain. So when the terrain is altered is when things can start to become a problem, all right? So as we've looked at the blood, we've done the terrain theory, we've seen structural issues cause tons and tons of problems, seemingly unrelated problems. We've seen teeth in the blood, which transmit energy. And this is a big deal. We've actually, like Josh said, we've helped a lot of people with different cancers even by looking at teeth. There's a study, one doctor, then you can find it online, root canals, where he basically 100% of the women in his study had an issue with the same tooth on the same meridian. There's a direct correlation between the breast cancer and the dental experience.
Well, and I see Kim asking a question here. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
I see Kim asking a question. So if you have a root canal, what do you do if you can't remove them? Well, the first thing is some people for root canals, it's a major issue. And some people, it's been okay. It hasn't been that big of a deal. So the first thing I would do is look at the acupuncture tooth meridian chart and see what tooth you have the root canal on and see if you're affected there. So if it's, as Adam said, if it's a breast issue and the tooth is on the breast meridian, then that's a tooth you want to take care of sooner than later. In general, if it's a problem, the only thing you can really do is to remove them and then get something healthy in its place. A bridge. There, people have issues with bridges and people have issues with implants as well, but they tend to be less of a problem than root canals do. So if you can't remove them, because the problem with dentists these days, a lot of us can't afford them. Simple things can kind of keep it in check a little bit. Certain people rinse with ozone water. You can do the coconut oil pulling. So you rinse each night with coconut oil where you swish it in your mouth for 5 to 20 minutes and then spit it out. And that kind of keeps things a little bit stable. But in general, if you're having, an emphysema problem, a lung problem, and you've got, root canal on the lung meridian, it might be something you want to get checked out. Good question.
Right. Yeah. Thanks. And the thing is, there's, with some of us, as we've been compromised, there are things we have to do to maintain.
Yeah.
Okay. So as Kim said, if you can't remove it, then maybe there's just a consistent maintenance you have to do. So you may have to do the oil pulling, like Josh said, regularly and keep yourself in check.
That's all the part of the reason
Well,
we work in Mexico a lot, is because the dental clinic there is all holistic, but it's also about 20% of the price of the United States. So you get things done correctly, and you get it, done in a way where a lot of us can afford it a little easier.
right. Yeah. It is pretty amazing, though, how many issues we see related to the mouth. Once again, seemingly unrelated issues, because this is the terrain being altered structurally, energetically. Even as I showed the pictures of the bio, right now there's a lot of fear. How's it altering your terrain? Well, when you're angry, when you're afraid, it changes the pH. You've got acidity and alkalinity changes in the body, and you need to have a balance here. All right, breathe, relax, get some joy. There's weird things going on, and we can't change everything, but what we can do is change how we're reacting.
That's
Right,
where
Josh?
Dad worked with the doctor who did he would insert pH meters into people's veins. So he would come in and say, "Oh, Adam, things aren't looking good," and the pH would spike. And if he came in
Right.
and said, "Oh, Adam, things are doing well," then the pH would balance out. So the emotions, fear is really, really affecting our pH. And realize a lot of people are trying to change their pHs with diet out there. And your diet controls about 2 to 5% of your pH only. It's your kidneys and lungs that control your pH. So we're talking about fear and grief, if we're talking about the emotions associated with those. So if we're living in a state of fear, it's drastically altering our pH more so than our diet is.
Right. Yeah. And so each morning when I do my qigong exercises, and they're the healing sounds.
Yeah.
So kidneys are fear, and I have a kidney exercise, and I'm doing a sound of sorts, and I can feel things starting to move and vibrate, and I feel relief. The same with the liver one for anger, because I get kind of angry at the stupidity, but I feel bad. So there's grief. So the lungs. So I'm doing these sounds. It's helping me to release the blocks and breathe. And that the bio image is the second one with the nice all that stuff going on. That's me. Yay! I do my work as much as I can. So teeth, though, we do see them in the blood. And it's neat. What we've done in the blood is we see issues like structure in teeth, and then we address them. We did when we have our clinics open. And then we look at the blood immediately afterwards, and we see change, which is nice. That's how we know we were getting to the root cause. This is the root cause experience. Once again, the terrain theory is what we're talking about. And we're not here to just convince people. We're here to give you some information that you can find out for yourself. Okay, change your environment a little bit. Right now, you're stuck at home. Okay, rearrange the furniture, put on some happy music, make some cookies, and fill the house with that smell. And watch the environment change. You're gonna feel differently.
The movement
Right?
is so important right now. So many of us are confined into our house, so there's no movement going on. And stagnation encourages sickness at this point in time. So now that everybody's stuck inside, move around if you can. If you're sitting in a chair, tap your feet, get those lymphatics moving, do some cross crawls, some exercises, get some movement. If you have a patio, sit on your patio. You're better off in the oxygen than sitting in front of the TV set. But you have to concentrate even more so on getting movement. Because I've said in the past, you don't heal sitting in a chair. I tried it. It did not work. So get some movement if you can. The Tai Chi does so much. The Qigong does so much for me. My sister's always here doing stretches. Adam's doing his Qigong a lot. Get some movement. We're all milling around the house at this point in time. It's like we're cows, grazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sing. Turn on the music and just sing loud. I love these videos of families dancing and lip syncing together and stuff like that. It's awesome. It's hilarious. For people that are listening, if you're a musician, send me a video of you playing some music for about 2 or 3 minutes, and I will play with that and then send you the video back of both of us playing together. Let's see if we can get a whole bunch of musicians, and we'll just play music together. A great video of an orchestra with each of the people confined in their own space, and they were playing music together, which was cool. So right now, we've been talking for about 45 minutes. If there's a question, people feel free to type it up. What we're going to end up doing is, this is part 2 of our terrain theory experience with the Blood Diaries show. The Blood Diaries, things we've learned from looking at blood for years and years. Josh working with Dad side by side for how long?
I worked side by side. Well, I worked on and off with Dad since the late 80s, but really side by side for about the last 15 years before he passed away.
Yeah.
So it's something I never learned a different way.
Yeah, and we want to share these things with you, and we want you to think about it. You've got time to think and do the little tests on your own. All right, the terrain, are we lying? Are we kidding? We've got results. We've had some proof. There are people, you know, that have been through our experience. If you listen to the show and you watch the show as it's recorded, whether or not you're here live, put in the comments, first of all, give us some likes, share it and all that kind of stuff too. But if you've had experience with our Father and your terrain and all that kind of experience, post it and let us know. Tell us about your story, please. All right? We need to share the terrain experience, and we need people listening to start to do little experiments on their own. All right? It's not time to just listen to an expert because you went to school. Got it? You're an expert in yourself, and there's no one like you, and everyone gets the same issue for different reasons. Dad treated the individual, not the disease. 10 people with Lyme disease for 10 different reasons. 10 people with prostate cancer for 10 different reasons. You are unique. Find out what brings you joy and get some damn joy. It's good for your health.
I'm pretty sure I could do Adam's blood before and after he drinks a milkshake, and it'll be better after he drinks the milkshake because he gets so much joy out of that it counteracts what little garbage there is in that milkshake.
Yep. It's the little things in life at this point in time. So get on it and appreciate the little things in life. Do a little research and see what you can find on terrain theory. Look up Pasteur and germ theory if you want. You know, if you make the lie big enough, then people believe it. But at this point, we're not here to argue. We just want to share what we've learned and ideally start to help develop this community that's interested in a different paradigm that we can live symbiotically. Okay. Tools, we want to educate people about tools. Qigong, we've talked about. We'll watch other shows. There's other things that we enjoy that will give you some tools also. Really do a list of joy and what makes you happy. Call a friend, Zoom with somebody, something like that. David says, you guys have mentioned incline therapy before. Are we able to explain? That'll be a different show, David. We could do a little rabbit hole on that. I sleep with my bed inclined. My sister sleeps with her bed inclined. Josh isn't doing it right now, but yes, little tools like that. Incline bed, incline sleeping. So we're going to let you guys go at this point. We don't want your heads to explode. We want to try to keep it somewhat brief. So we're going to end up having to do part 3. We'll talk about emotions at that point and more tools and things you can do. We'll have more people on the show. Once again, go ahead and share this. Here's our website. Feel free to take a look and share that with people. If this resonates with you, please share this. There's not enough of this.
The goal is to educate, really, so we don't live in fear so much. And the next time the epidemic of fear comes around, then hopefully people who are educated a little more about it won't be so afraid.
Yeah. Yep. And like I started my show off, you know, whether you think the virus is, whether you're afraid of it or you think it's a lie, doesn't make a difference. What you should realize, all of us together now, is there's nothing more important than our health. And that should be a priority for everybody, right? Two sides, the same coin, people. Got it? Check out our website. There's contact information there also. We're doing consultations now as the mail is still working, so you can take a drop of blood and send it to us. We'll take some images and we'll do an educational consultation for you. You'll join our private association, and we can have wonderful, wonderful conversations that are here to educate and empower you. Cool. All right. Lorraine, good to see you there. David, everyone else that was there, Anna, who was there, and I'm seeing more comments popping up right now. Daniela, yay, good to see you. Hola, ¿cómo está? Kathy, awesome. Anna, Maria, wonderful to see you always. Lydia, good to see you there too. But that's about the size of it for the Blood Diaries today. Josh, thanks for hanging in. Josh is in Dad's old office over there, by the way, if you can see the Disney cells.
I think there he is on the wall, watching over us also. To all of our friends in Catalonia, bona nit. To our friends in the rest of Spain, buenas noches. Sleep well, dulces sueños. And please, people, don't live in fear. Try to spread the joy any way we can.
You get it. We'll see you next time on the Blood Diaries. Blah, 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 blah.